Welcome to DataViz Daily. I'm Kevin McGinley. In the last episode, I used a little trick to help me use color to highlight disparate groups of quarterbacks so that I could compile them all into one filter, which you see at the top here. And you can see the ones that I highlighted in yellow or yellowish are the ones that I had kind of used that trick to isolate. Now I want to kind of look at how these guys compare, and I want to use some interesting calculations to show what's going on when you kind of compare rushing quarterbacks or quarterbacks who tend to run more with quarterbacks who tend to run less but throw a lot. So we've got these guys, and let's go ahead and just do sort of your basic name and passing yards, and I'm just going to pick a visualization here of a bar chart. Horizontal bar chart. Now what's nice here, because I did that colorization of those rushing quarterbacks, that actually translates into the second visualization that you see here. So if I actually sort this high to low, we can see that generally speaking our passing quarterbacks, which are in blue right now, are exceeding our rushing quarterbacks, which are in yellow, from a passing yardage perspective. And that's what, you would generally expect to see. But, what's the value of those rushing yards for those quarterbacks? So I built some calculations here. So the first thing that I needed to do was take a look at, well, if we think about all the rushing attempts that these quarterbacks have, what if those were passes instead? So we would have to take a look at, well, what's the quarterback's typical completion percentage, which I built here. Pretty simple, pass completions divided by pass attempts. Then we would have to look at, okay, well, if we could convert those rushing attempts into a certain number of completions, how many yards would that add to their total sort of passing yards? So if I figure out how many yards they get per completion, I could then create this adjusted passing yards metric, which, if you kind of look at it, is a little bit messy here, but it's basically looking at the rushing attempts and the pass completions and doing some addition and division there to get to an adjusted passing yards, where we take their rushing attempts, convert them into passes, and turn those into yards. So if we cancel here and actually replace the passing yards with adjusted passing yards, now our color is going to change because we changed our measure here, so it's no longer blue, we've got green. But if I sort that high to low, we can see that Russell Wilson, Cam Newton, Blake Bortles climb the chart a little bit. Matt Ryan and Eli Manning fall down a bit. How does this compare to if we just simply added up their passing yards with their rushing yards? How does that match up? Well, again, our color is going to change here. So if we sort that high to low, the rushing quarterbacks fall a little bit. Blake Bortles rises, Russell Wilson rises, but ultimately the passing quarterbacks still dominate. But in fantasy football, rushing yards are actually worth 2.5 times as many points as passing yards in typical scoring leagues. So I created this total adjusted yards, where I'm actually weighting the rushing yards 2.5 times the passing yards. If we look at that, now suddenly our rushing quarterbacks jump right to the top. Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, Blake Bortles, high above or way above our Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Philip Rivers, Matt Ryan, our traditional passing quarterbacks. So that's an interesting use of some calculations and some visualizations with some color. Tune in next time and maybe we'll move on to a different data set than fantasy football quarterbacks.